Next speaker is Phil Myers. He's actually being of service to the Brain Support Network. He's their treasurer, and he leads discussions at the PSP and CBD caregiver support group meetings. He was also a caregiver for his wife who died of PSP, and he's going to cover some lessons learned and hints to ease the journey. Thanks. Phil Myers.
Thank you. My wife of 45 years, still hard. She had PSP, and on January 23rd, 2011, she passed over to be with her God. That was over 6 years ago, at age 72. I'm going to try to cover some lessons learned and some hints that will ease this journey. As I look back now, she had started symptoms in 2003 when she was 64, although we did not know the cause. We'd been fighting to get those symptoms and tie them down and try and get it to one disease. We had seen several different doctors, all the different specialties. Nobody could identify what it was. Then she had a bad fall in October of 2004, and we realized it was something very serious. The disease continued to progress, and we were not able to get a firm diagnosis until 2007, 3 years later. That's a long time to not know. Dr. Jay Nutt, the director of Movement Disorder Department at Oregon Health and Science University, told us she had PSP. In the end, she contributed her brain, donated the brain to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, and PSP was confirmed as the diagnosis as the cause, along with agrophilic grain disease. We don't hear about that, but turns out that was on some of the slides today as another disease that tied in with this. And the Mayo Clinic says that occurs 30% of the time with PSP. So, what did we learn that might help you? Get a second and third opinion, however many you need, for the unexplained symptoms. These are rare diseases, and not all neurologists are aware of how to evaluate the symptoms. You might be likely to be led down the wrong path. Don't accept an unconfirmed or a non-specific diagnosis. We did for over a year, and I regret it. Mayo Clinic doctors called it senile chorea. That's an old age movement disorder. That's their wastebasket when they don't know what to call it. Don't accept that. Fight back. We didn't do that for a while. I finally demanded to go see an expert, and they sent me to see Dr. Nutt up in Oregon, and he's the one that diagnosed her finally. Go and get to the level of a movement disorder specialist if you haven't been to one. Go, force it, force the second opinion. Make that happen. There are things that you need to do in terms of making, there we go. You need to make some significant care decisions early when it can be a fully conscious and an in-depth discussion with the caregiver and the patient together on several subjects. Feeding tubes, that's a hard one. When you get to the point that the swallow muscles don't work anymore, and liquid and food flows down into the lungs, what do? Jackie did not want a feeding tube. The hard part with a feeding tube is, when do you stop it? And who has to make that decision? Think about all that. Talk to your doctor. Talk to the people. Talk to the patient. Talk to you as a caregiver. Do not resuscitate orders. Jackie wanted do not resuscitate. She did not want to be maintained by a machine. Hospitalization or die at home. These are tough decisions. They're hard to even talk about. But you need to have those discussions. Jackie wanted to die at home. With the help of hospice, we were able to make that happen, and she was there with her family. Brain donation. This has to be arranged ahead of time. The brain has to be taken within 24 hours of death. We live up in Lake County. We don't even have a neurologist in the county, let alone a movement disorder specialist. Nobody there is qualified to take the brain. Brain Support Network arranged all that ahead of time so that when she passed, the brain was taken and it was sent to Jacksonville on time. And then we knew. So have those discussions. It's extremely important. Now you've got to document those once you have the decisions. If you don't have an advanced healthcare directive, get it now. Also, there's a physician orders for life-sustaining treatment, a POLST. That's the California form in which your physician documents what it is you want or don't want. If you don't have that and you're in a situation where you're traveling, or it could be anywhere, and death occurs, you've got to have those in writing or they won't do anything. So it's very, very important. Discuss these with your family and the doctors so that everybody knows the plan. You heard about this a minute ago. Exercise. Exercise. We all love that, don't we? I hate it. I've got Parkinson's and I don't like exercise, but you've got to start it early and do as much as you can, as long and as much as possible. It delays the diseases. It really does. One of the things that we did was, as you can see on the picture, a body weight support treadmill for my wife, where it would lift her up out of her wheelchair, get her over the treadmill, and then we could move her legs. And her legs would move. A lot of times she did it herself. A lot of times we had to do it for her. Dr. Nutt said that extended her life a year. A year. How heavy her hair. Do it. The exercise is worth it. Make life as normal as possible. Jackie was a gardener. We made up this special place that she could garden. She could still do the things she wanted to do. This includes travel. You may think travel's hard. The airlines really help you out. Jackie passed away in January. 3 months before that, we took her down to L.A. to see her daughter perform and sing in the rain. She loved it. She couldn't talk. I don't know how much she could see, but she knew what was going on. It was one of the best trips we ever took. Another thing, check out clinical trials. Clinicaltrials.gov, this is a report I ran the other day. There are currently 15 clinical trials of some nature recruiting people in the United States. The opportunities are out there. Talk to your doctor. Try and figure out how you can participate in those. Bottom line is, my wife and I discussed this a lot, and she got involved in a trial. They tried lithium, and it almost killed her, but that's part of the way you find out. They had to give so much that it really was an impact. But her comment was, if I don't try it, and my disease advances, and I've gone farther on, and then I find out I could have been in that trial, and it worked, I've missed out. So think about that. Look at the trials and see which ones you can participate in and which would help you. Be proactive. I shouldn't have to say that to you folks. You're all here. Okay, you've got to participate in support groups and go to presentations. Do the research online. The bottom line is, a big factor on the success of the disease versus your success, because we're fighting it, is attitude. You've got to have a good attitude. You've got to keep going after things. So be proactive. Another thing we learned was to keep a binder. There's a lot of factors to these diseases. And if you don't have a binder or some file where you put everything, you and the caregiver keep that file and take it with you to every doctor appointment. Because if you don't, the doctors aren't obligated to try and coordinate across between them. You have to do that. It's very important that you do. So, bottom line, get second and third opinions early. Don't accept an unconfirmed or nonspecific diagnosis. Make those significant care decisions early. And exercise. Oh, you love it, don't you? Everybody says it, but you got to do it. Make life as normal as possible. Investigate clinical trials, be proactive, and keep your binder. Thank you.